say, even though it's about rape. It's not like I support people raping. I was worried about that.
Basically, the worst possible thing
I know. I was like, damn.
You have to blink.
Okay, so I'm refuting Selena White's speech on provocative clothing does not increase the likelihood of rape. So her secondary claims was, first one, rapists are not strangers to the victim. Second, the slut walk issue where one woman had 12 different outfits where she was sexually assaulted in, this, supporting the fact that clothing doesn't matter in rape. And the third, rape is not an act of sexual desire, but an act of dominance and power. My main claim would be that clothing can cause people to look older and therefore more attracted to certain people, and that would increase the likelihood of rape. I have 3 secondary claims. My first secondary claim is to minimize the secondary claims my opponent has. My second secondary claim would be that clothing can affect someone's judgment. Today's society markets and encourages less conservative ideals. And my third secondary claim would be clothing can affect someone's judgment, which can lead to rape. My opponent, Selena, mentioned an article which was written about a specific kind of march called Slut Walk. After further reading into the article, the main topic of the article is not about actually rape. It is about feminists and the definition of the word slut. They gathered together to actually protest the negative connotation of the word slut means. She has also a statistic that was stated 77% of rapes are related to non-strangers or someone the victim knew. Upon reading the statistic, it turns out that there are many factors in how the statistic was gathered that could greatly affect the meaning of the results. One would be that it is a multi-stage cluster sample, which means first of all, a multi-stage is a complex form of a cluster sample, which is used to gather data faster and more cost efficiently, but it sacrifices the accuracy in the data. The data was also gathered through 3 different methods, through a CATI, or computer-assisted telephone interviewing, or over-the-phone interviewing, and face-to-face interviewing. Many people obviously have had electronic telemarketers talk to them and they hang up immediately afterwards. Some people don't like to talk to people over the phone, and some people are less inclined to talk to people about their experiences with rape face-to-face. My third, another data that she gives is, in support of that earlier thing I said, according to RAND, another source Selena stated, which is Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, 60% of sexual assaults are not reported to the police, so that would greatly affect the meaning of the results of that data. Today's society markets and encourages less conservative ideals. Many kids are exposed to adult themes and ideas well beyond when they should, and they do not understand what it means. In an article written by Jeanette Gardner-Littleton called Sexy Too Soon, many stores now sell adult themes and influence fashions such as a Beyonce-themed line of clothes in a children's store. Many role models such as Britney Spears and Paris Hilton also radiate a sense of adulthood that children cannot quite grasp. My last secondary claim would be that clothing can affect someone's judgment, which can lead to rape. In accordance with earlier statement that children are now wearing clothing that is more adult themed, In a study called The Influence of Victims' Attire on Adolescents' Judgment of Date Rape by Cassidy, Linda Hero, and Rose Mary, a test group was shown 1 to 3 pictures of a woman. The woman was either showed as provocatively dressed, 1 to 2 pictures. The first one would be she was shown provocatively dressed. The second would be she was shown conservatively dressed, or no photo was shown at all. They were given a scenario where the woman invited the male rapist to a date of some sort, and the rapist, the perpetrator, was then followed through the scenario into a rape. They did, after telling this scenario, they then showed one of the 2 photographs or no photograph at all to the people. And at the end of the study, it was shown that provocative clothing was also associated with greater tendency for subjects to agree that the behavior of the assailant was justified, or further, that the results indicate that the subject was less likely to make judgments of rape when the victim was not provocatively dressed. And with all these claims, I conclude that clothing can affect the judgment and can increase the likelihood of rape.
At least you didn't see me for that. I'm going a lot better than I'd seen you. I figured it would be super hard to do.
All right, I kind of understand the apology that you had there at the beginning, but you want to be careful because, remember, nobody's saying that you're advocating this particular position. The question is whether or not the advocate adequately proved their particular claim, and is there reason to doubt those conclusions, not that it's okay to rape somebody because of the way they're dressed. I think that you do a good job explaining that clothing does have an influence on the way society views others, and that it could, in fact, have a long-term consequence on whether or not people see certain behaviors as being acceptable or not, especially given the 2 things that you have at the end. Your challenge on the first point, arguing that the slut walk is really less about the rape issue and more about feminist issues and the way they want to control the language that is being used to describe them, I thought was okay. You go through this whole explanation about challenging the statistic concerning the number of people who commit sexual assaults and their familiarity with the person that they sexually assault, that they have a relationship. I don't know how much that gets you. Even if the study is minimized in some way, the advocate is in essence saying that this is occurring primarily not because of sexuality issues, but because of power issues. So how this either advances the advocate's claim or your claim, I'm not quite clear on, and I think that there needs to be a stronger explanation of this. From your point of view, I would think it would suggest, for instance, that really actually, that number is high is probably more indicative that people are judging this in a contextual or relational context and not the way somebody is dressed, per se. In other words, these people knew each other beforehand, or they had some relationship prior to this incident, and so, in other words, this behavior, this assault, for instance, is contextualized within a relationship, which doesn't suggest that anything about the way they are dressed had anything to do with it, but rather that they knew this person. They'd gone out with them before. They had some kind of relationship with them. They were friends, acquaintances, relatives. There's all kinds of stuff that goes on in the world that's kind of weird. I think the marketing thing about the way the clothing is marketed to people suggests that there's a lot of sexualization of kids early on in the process. And then I think what's missing here is an argument that talks about how that sexualization changes the way people perceive behaviors as being acceptable or unacceptable. And then you get to a point where you talk about a study that deals with that. And I think that that's the right study to be using at that particular point. But there's some link between those 2 things that's missing, something that needed to be added. All right. Thank you all very much.